How we doing, people? Welcome back to 10/10 Reviews. Today we have a 2019 Jeep Cherokee Limited with the customer preferred package. Right off the bat, you can see these LED lights. Very bald eagle-like, very American. We have the 7 grill design over here, which is very special to Jeep. Fog lights down here seem to be turned off at the moment, as there is no fog. We have 18-inch wheels with 13-inch rotors in the front and 11-inch rotors in the back. The car length itself is 183 inches and the wheelbase is 106 inches. Today's engine is the Pentastar V6, giving out 271 horsepower, 239 pound-feet of torque, getting you 0 to 60 in 7.2 seconds. Gas mileage is around 19 in the city, 27 on the highway, for a combined 22, with a range of 300 miles. I think it gave me 308 until I breathed on the gas, and it gave me 306 immediately. What's nice is that there's no prop rod in here if you take a look around. It stays up on its own. Let's see if I can get it closed with my phone, with my hand. Oh, there we go. I just wanted to take a second to thank everybody for bearing with me on this video and audio. I know it's not great, but I promise it'll get better as we go. Thanks so much for joining me on 10/10 Reviews. And of course you have your Jeep key with your unlock, your lock. You can open up the trunk with a double click, close it as well. It's very fast acting. You can remote start as well, which is very fast acting. And it doesn't come with subscription service, which is very nice and a lot to ask for these days. Cancel that, and your panic button, of course. And in the back we have a power lift gate, which is very easy to use. The close button is actually over here on the side. People are always looking for it over here on top, but it's not there. We have a couple of hangers as well as some bolt downs, tie downs, whatever you want to call these grab action handly things. We have a speaker back here. It's easy to put the seat forward and they fold down 60/40, which is really convenient. We have another DC outlet back here, which is great for your 12 volt, more tie downs. And then if you look back here, we have a compartment, and beyond the compartment we have an actual spare, which is a great thing to have. It's a nice back seat back here. Not too many crazy textures on the doors or materials. We have injected molded plastic right here. I'm pretty sure this is plastic as well, but it looks like aluminum, and then this is a nice leather finish with a stitch. And in the back we have 40.3 inches of legroom, which is a ton, and we have a good amount of headroom as well, which is great. We have our full panoramic roof back here, so it lets in a lot of light. We have our incandescent lights back here, but I have the door open so they're staying on. Good seat pockets that can fit a decent amount, and they're padded and squishy, which is really nice. We have our HVAC back here with direction, and you can open and close the vents. We have USB 1 and USB 2, which are illuminated so you can see them at night, and a full 3-prong outlet, which is awesome. We have our armrest, which is surprisingly squishy and nice. Really like it. Really comfortable. No problem over there either. We have our grab handles as well as a hanger. Same thing going on in the front door. Another injected molded plastic, likely plastic, memory seating. One touch for the front, not one touch for the back. Child lock, rear lock, adjust your mirrors electronically, all that good stuff. Fit a decent amount of stuff in the door over here, and again we have this little receptacle as well. Follow me over here to the cockpit. You can see that we have control over our lights, our interior lighting as well, which controls the brightness of all of our stuff. You can even see that over here. We have our trunk. We have our HVAC in the front, which is real nice. Over here, you can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12-way power adjusting with lumbar. I have to say though that the lumbar in this car is not crazy comfortable. And another great feature I just wanted to mention was that you have convenience entrance and exit where the seat will move back for you. The keyless entry and exit doesn't work. This does nothing. It hasn't since day one. I have the key right here, but when you try to do it this way, nothing. And I think it's important to note that the 2019 and the 2020 Jeep Cherokee Limiteds are identical. I'm pretty sure this also carries across to the 2021. So if you're looking across those years, you're not going to miss out on any features. Over here we have our little side compartment space as well. And our glove compartment right here, which comes down nice and softly. It's damped. Here we have a little shallow tray where you can put things. and a bigger tray where you can put things like masks and tissues and a golf ball and everything bagel seasoning, if you're that kind of person. You have a little change drawer down here. You have a 12 volt and you have another USB. Comfortable pad, but I have to say the distance to the steering wheel isn't perfect, so I often have to rest my elbow right here, which is against it and not on it, which I would love to be on it. We have mute, we have our traction control on off, we have our start on off, we have our screen off button as well, which is nice if you don't want to turn your music off. We have actual rockers, which you can see here are knurled with a really nice texture, and they're also surrounded by an LED. And you don't see a lot of physical buttons for that anymore. But this is dual zone climate. We have front and rear defrosters as well. Down here we have our drive mode selector, as you can see, right? It flashes a little bit, changes into the next mode. USB, aux, it's really nice that we have an aux and a 12 volt. And then our shifter, which is and you can even push it to the side and do manual if you like. We have an electronic parking brake, 2 cup holders, which are very spacious and never get in the way, and a little tray over here as well. In addition to a little tray back here where you can put your phone. And over here we have our nice steering wheel, a little bit on the bigger side, but not too big. Couple of dead buttons that you cannot click in. Cruise control, navigate your digital gauge cluster, which is a hybrid digital gauge cluster with actual analog gauges and a 7-inch LCD screen. Over here you can toggle your phone settings. You have your Jeep voice.
Cancelled.
As well as Siri capability if you hold it. We'll navigate our digital gauge cluster. We have our miles per hour. Our vehicle info with a couple different options in here. Our fuel economy. Stop start information. Audio, which is carried through CarPlay, which is great. Messages, if you have it hooked up to the Jeep. A lot of people, though, do it through CarPlay and it doesn't show up there. And an overall screen setup. This car has apps and stuff, and the great thing is that you can hold and just put it on the dock if you like, and have that configured any way that you like. It does come with nav of its own. I've never used it, not once. And if you do, it shows up here in the gauge cluster, but I don't. There's no HUD in this car. You have climate, you have heated seats, heated steering wheel, which is really nice as well. You can see over here, boom. Okay, so one thing that does suck is that this reverse camera has no way to wash it, and even here I'll put on the rear washer fluid and you can see that it doesn't get any better. So that's really annoying, but what it does have is trajectory, which I really appreciate, and it's pretty accurate. It is not the most pixelated and it's not the most clear, but I think it's a lot clearer than a lot of other cars in this segment, so I do appreciate the camera. You have radio, you have satellite radio, but the trial ran out on it. Other apps that you're really going to use are basically nothing. However, it is nice that this has Travel Link because it shows you your fuel prices at all of the nearby gas stations, so you can kind of choose, oh, how much money do I want to spend today? How bad do I need it? Oh, if I can go a little bit further, let me save some cash. But then you're also paying for gas, so you have to kind of do that math out and see if it's really worth it. In terms of satellite radio, this is shooting. Even though this did max out on the subscription, you can save. There's favorites somewhere. Yes, favorites right here, which is a big win. We have this beautiful snowy day today, and we're gonna see how this 2019 Jeep Cherokee Limited does. This has a pretty good 4x4 system. It's not really fazed by weather like this. I feel like it's one of the few cars on the road where you don't have to drive drastically under the speed limit every time it rains or snows. As you can see, traction's good, brakes are good. Those wipers going a little bit. It's all about driver etiquette, everyone. I hate to be that person outside in the snow. Ugh. Luckily, I feel like I'm in this mini tank right now. The seating position's pretty good. It's a nice ride height. Let's get in here, give it, see, no slippage there. You know, I can drive like a hooligan, and again, it stops. Brakes are surprisingly decent. So another thing that I think is really important in practice is how good is the turning radius, and we're about to find out. Gonna pull this U-turn, see how we do. Yeah. No 3-point turn necessary. Nice and easy. Fuel economy. Averaging 21.5 miles per gallon. The range comes in at 308, so that's pretty standard. You don't see a lot of cars in this segment that have insanely large ranges. That's kind of to be expected. And the CVT does its best to optimize that. But honestly, I would take worse gas mileage for a little bit of freaking response. This thing just won't go. And it's punchy. Look at this. This is me at low speeds, right? You even saw my head go back. Hopefully, I don't know, the angle. But when you're trying to pass on the highway, it's insufficient. And it thinks it's giving you a gear, and it starts gear hunting, and by the time it's found what it needs, you're already out of the turn. One thing I like about this car is that it's not really phased by any weather. You can just kind of do what you're going to do at the speed you're already going to do it. Because the all-wheel drive system is pretty decent. Doesn't have any torque vectoring or anything crazy. It's not deploying power or brakes to a specific wheel or 50-50 or anything like that. It's just front-wheel drive. Oh, here's a little bit of slippage. Let's go into all-wheel drive. So this car has a torquey engine, this Pentastar V6. It gives you a lot of torque down low, so you feel like you're getting thrown back just a little bit. But the second that you get it above, let's say 50, it really runs out of steam, and it's pretty obvious as well. So it struggles a little bit when it comes to passing power, which you do notice. And it's a CVT transmission, so it's sluggish for that reason as well, because it's tuned to kind of meet in the middle of eco. So in attempts to improve the gas mileage, it's a little bit more boring and sedate. This sounds silly, but honestly, shifting in manual in this CVT, which I know sounds crazy, is one of the few ways that you can actually get that passing power that you need when you're trying to overtake someone on the highway when you're already going at speed. It's fine getting up to speed. It's quoted at 7.3 seconds 0 to 60, which is okay, especially for the segment. It's nothing crazy. And now that I've shown you how much it's snow raining, I don't even know what to call this, I will throw the windshield wipers on so you guys aren't going crazy. And let's see how it does. See, I'm already reaching for that because I just feel like it's not really giving me what I need in terms of, it's a sluggish engine. There's no getting around it. But it handles okay. It handles okay. If you know how to drive a front-wheel drive, biased all-wheel drive system, which is what this is. Brakes are still handling in the wet. And I'm not struggling for grip. I'm not sliding around like a maniac. It feels pretty controlled. I feel that a lot of cars that do not have this all-wheel drive system have to take it easy right now, but I can still blast on the way to my commute and not be late for work, which is an advantage of this car. It's a safe car. It does well in the safety ratings. It's not like the most fun or a technologically advanced car, but it's rugged. You do get a lot of noise, vibrations, and hardness through it. I think that the armrest over here is rattling, glove compartment's rattling, but that could just be things in it. The doors are rattling, so you'd expect a little bit better. Again, other people aren't driving like the hooligan that I am, but that's Jeep life, baby. So now, see now, if you double shift on this, you actually get some pickup. But you could put your foot to the floor and get nothing out of this thing. It's just not fast. You gotta do the double shift if you want to get going over here. And this does have automatic daytime and nighttime lighting, both on the inside and outside with the DRLs. But it must have some snow on the camera, so I'm gonna turn that on manually, which I just did. And now things start to lighten up. I turned off the infotainment because why stare at that when you can see what it's like to drive? All Apple CarPlays are basically gonna look the same. But again, this is one of the cars where you don't have to take it easy just because it's snowing. Everyone else, if you can see around me, is going very, very safely, very slowly, because they probably have front-wheel drive, or their systems just aren't as good. This is a good system. It's a nice cabin. It feels luxurious enough. The visibility is great. there's really no blind spots in this car, which is wonderful. You get the front and rear wipers, and you get front and rear defrost. You get heated side mirrors. There's a lot to be said about this package. It's nice, and this is the customer preferred package. It options out the sunroof, maybe the larger infotainment system, and that's really just about it. You can see how it holds up in the wet on these roads. So my foot's to the floor, not much is really happening. This is 0 to 60 in 7.2 seconds, which is not stupendous even for this segment. You get a little bit of wind noise, not too much tire noise, which is really nice in these 18-inch wheels. And the 18-inch wheels help just a little bit to mitigate the harshness of the suspension, which is a spring-based suspension, and I'm not going to beat around the bush. It is not comfortable. I genuinely dread going over speed bumps, over potholes, anything like that, because it sends this painful shockwave up my spine. And I'm not an old man, I'm 25 years old, and I shouldn't be so afraid of that, but it just makes me want to brake before I get any kind of bump, because it is so abrupt. This is not a soak up the bumps kind of suspension. It's pretty utilitarian. The steering is relatively direct. You get a little bit of understeer being a front-wheel drive by a system, but it's nothing abysmal. It does require a little bit of correction in the corners. You know, right there, you saw it right there. Right? Just on the brakes a little bit because the road is rough. That's where these chunky wheels come in. Got these 18-inch wheels on today. They're not very loud, which is great. You can feel the CVT kind of droning along as it struggles for air. It's being suffocated out here. And I'm not at altitude or anything. I'm driving around New York, so that's a little bit disappointing. This is something people have to master because you need to have control. Alright, let's see how the stopping does. I'm actually going to slam on the brake right now and see how it does. Full stop in the wet. There are little Easter eggs like this little Jeep over here and a few in the trunk under here as well, which are cute, and they really shout Jeep life. You have traction control off, and you actually have an engine stop start control. A lot of cars don't let you turn that off these days. We're reaching for this because it's the only way to actually move forward. Even though it's simulated gears, which is silly, I know. That's where we are in the world. Do whatever you gotta do to get that pickup because this car does not supply it. It's very sedate. I'm not in sport because sport turns traction control off and it's really, really slippery out there, and I don't really want to get into that today. So this is about the all-wheel drive system today. Hence why I took you out in this torrential blizzard. No, it's really fine out. This is no big deal. I was walking in it a few minutes ago. It's totally fine. Okay. Coast, coast, coast. Brake, brake, brake. So my foot's all the way down to the ground right now. All the way down. And look how slowly I'm passing these. And I'm really putting my foot down. I'm just, I'm struggling to get even 4 miles per hour on what I was doing with my foot all the way down. So that's not ideal. There are more comfortable Grand Touring vehicles and better suspension vehicles, but in this price range, this is basically on par. You get a very nice cabin, good visibility, decent horsepower and torque, good reverse camera, surprisingly decent unbranded speaker system. Most unbranded speaker systems are not good. This one's okay. Maybe even a little bit better than okay. I'm not gonna lie. Ooh, spooky. All good though. Used to it over here in New York. We don't get the best weather, but it could be worse. This car can hold a straight line decently well. Heavy steering, not tight steering, right? But I like a heavier steering, and I like the steering wheel. It's kind of meaty. It's not less than little ones, and it's not too big. The sport mode does almost nothing. It does push the RPMs up just a tiny bit. It's still struggling, and it doesn't really pick up when you ask it to. But here we are in a windy bit, so I will put it into the sport just to demonstrate that there's not too much going on over there. Right? It turns traction control off, and it is very slippery, so I won't have it on very long, but I just want to show you that this can do too much. because I don't want to die today. The chassis does show a lot of body roll, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It can be annoying in a car this heavy. This is almost 4,000 pounds. So you feel it, you know, it's sluggish, it's heavy. CVT transmission is focused on gas mileage, and the gas mileage isn't even that good. You can see I'm getting 21.4 over here, which isn't great. And already in this short time of this review, which has been about 20 minutes, I've gone from 308 mile range to 276, and I definitely haven't gone that far. I can tell you that as a fact. I must have gone a maximum of 10 miles, including both ways. So not stellar. This car is a big box, so it's not particularly aerodynamic, and it will get shoved by the wind. Plenty of times I'm driving upstate with a lot of weight in the car, suitcases, doggo, family members, and it's maybe a 2-hour drive or so, and we'll get to some water, and I'm like struggling to do this because I can feel like it pushing me. When you're really getting shoved, it's freaky, and that's definitely a complaint in this car. There's a lot of mushiness before you really get the braking you want, so it does have that dead space that I strongly dislike. This is not really a do-it-all car. This is a car that's, you know, it's good for the winter. It's got a lot of airbags, got good visibility. It can fit some stuff in the back, and that's it. After, let's say 40 minutes, you want to get out of the chair. Even though it does have lumbar, I just can't get it in the right place. Maybe it's because I'm a shorter guy, I don't know. But I just can't get comfortable in these seats. But this car has no problem, you know, staying in the lane. The steering is fine. The body roll is immense, as it's supposed to be. It's a crossover, and this is not like created to stay flat, you know. If you'd like to come into my lane, you're more than welcome, but just let me know. Blinkers, everyone. Blinkers are so important. I feel that a lot of accidents can be avoided if people just use their blinkers properly, didn't leave them on, and use them when appropriate. Blinker, lane switch, blinker off. The horsepower and torque figures, especially in relation to the just shy of 4,000 pound weight in this thing, are actually fine. You look at a Porsche Macan base model and it's got similar figures. It's just this CVT transmission that really lets it down. And with the engine start-stop right now, you can hear that it's pretty much silent, but when I take my foot off the brake like so, it re-engages the engine and it saves you a little bit of MPG. I'll even put it in sport for your pleasure and chug more of that delicious gas. Had to do the little bracelet dance. Gotta get those down and secured. And I know that gas prices are a little bit ridiculous right now, but I just couldn't sleep at night until I learned how this car does in the dry. And show you as I promised. So we're in the sport mode, a little bit gas into it. No change in responsiveness, really about the same thing, but the RPMs do climb a little bit higher. It's really hard to power out of these turns. There's not a lot of power put into this, but the traction's about the same as it is in the wet as it is in the dry, which is a really big accomplishment for any all-wheel drive system. And this surface is just really harsh. I can feel everything. I don't like it. The suspension. Thank you very much. That's sweet of you. Isn't it just nice when people just move over? It's so polite. Reduces traffic. Everybody gets what they want. On the brakes because our friend in front is signaling. It's so easy when people signal. I know exactly what to do. Ow. you're trying to merge, you get that beep if somebody's in your blind spot, which is great. So blind spot detection is on point. There's no lane keep assist, there's no lane centering, there's no adaptive cruise, there is regular cruise. All you have to do is press this button, and then it can take over that. But again, it's not adaptive. This car claims to have emergency brake. I have not seen it work while driving. I do see it work when you're backing up very slowly into a space, and it often asserts itself when it's not needed. Well, I hope you enjoyed my in-depth review of the 2019 Jeep Cherokee Limited. Thanks for joining me again on 10/10 Reviews. See you on the next one.